It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Monday, alongside Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter. I'm Mark Freeman. Got a lot of NBA talk today as the Big Three from Miami have all opted out of their contracts. We got World Cup soccer. We're still talking soccer, folks. Not the game, the practice. We're talking soccer.
That's right.
Today, the U.S. has made it through to the round of 16, and we talked a little bit about it on Friday, but they've got Belgium on, I guess, tomorrow afternoon. I think it's a 3 o'clock first kick of the soccer ball, whatever you call that. But the U.S. is still alive and kicking.
Oh,
and, yeah, that happened. And we've got some sports to talk about today. Obviously, we've got the a little bit more on the World Cup, but NBA news, lots of good stuff going on. Well, in a time of the year when, man, thank God for the World Cup, because there literally is nothing else going on aside from rumor mill stuff, NBA free agency. We'll talk a little bit more about the draft and then the World Cup.
Yeah, I bet you never thought you would say that. Thank God for the World Cup to save us.
I did say that.
But, yeah, there's a lot going on, Mark. You mentioned the World Cup, U.S. and Belgium tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And then if you have some time, obviously the soccer heads will, but you can watch the U.S.'s next opponent if they were to beat Belgium, Argentina and Sweden playing. Obviously, Argentina, my pick to win the World Cup, but obviously
looking a little better now, huh?
Well, yeah, it is. Again, I don't like how we're messy or bust, but we're making our way through it. We'll see how it goes. But on the NBA front, free agency is definitely prevalent. As you said, the Big Three have opted out. So what does this mean? Does this mean they'll opt back in? Does it mean they'll take significantly less money, a little less money? What about LeBron James? What kind of contract is he seeking? Also, Brooklyn Nets, Jason Kidd. That looks like they've agreed to a deal with the Milwaukee Bucks to trade him, I guess, in essence. It says here Nets have agreed to send Kidd to the Bucks in exchange for 2 second-round picks. So Jason Kidd appears to be headed to the Milwaukee Bucks. Mark, what an unusual and crazy situation. It kind of happened quickly.
It's crap is what it is. It's stupid. Jason Kidd, man, I tweeted he's a punk for that. What he did, I mean, that's the equivalent, the literal equivalent of you going to somebody and, going to somebody's boss or owner and saying you want their job. Like, that's crap. You're just going behind somebody's back and, hey, I want you to fire him and hire me. I want you to do it, And apparently what Jason Kidd started out doing is going to the Nets and saying, I want to run the franchise. 1 year with the highest salary cap or salary roster in the history of the NBA. You win one playoff series in 7 games and against a team that could have beat you at the buzzer and you would have lost the very first only playoff series. Halfway through last season, everybody's talking about dude needs to go.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of him. Here he is going into the Nets ownership and saying, I want to be the man in this franchise. I want to have control as a president, a GM, a coach. I want all the Doc Rivers control. And he doesn't get it, so he goes to the Bucks, who apparently you can talk a little bit about the owner there.
Yeah.
And he goes and says, I want the same thing there. Well, then he burns every bridge he had in New Jersey or in Brooklyn, and he ends up getting traded for 2 second-round picks to be the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. I guess he thought Jabari Parker was worth more than anybody the Nets had, but what a screwed up situation. It makes me, I had very little respect for Jason Kidd as a human being earlier before, but I always respected him as a player, but I've got nothing left for Jason Kidd, the man. I heard a lot of bad stuff about him, but this just solidifies that in my opinion. I can't believe somebody would do something like that, and now he gets stuck with Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I look at it from the Milwaukee standpoint. To me, that may be even more troubling just from the standpoint of, I told you before the show, it reminds me of the strange affection that James Dolan had with Isaiah Thomas. I mean, for some reason, it's like Isaiah Thomas was always lurking around the Knicks. You thought he was going to be fired. You thought he'd be quit, but somehow he always had him a job with the Knicks. And people were like, what is Dolan's obsession with Isaiah Thomas? And I almost see that type of situation developing here. I mean, just a little background. One of the owners, I believe the majority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, ownership just changed hands, was a minority owner with the New Jersey Nets. Obviously, Jason Kidd, one of the greatest New Jersey Nets of all time. And so a relationship formed there. And apparently He wants his boy Jason Kidd. You've listed his credentials. I mean, only 1 year as a head coach and really was mediocre results considering all they had. I know they had some injuries, but still the payroll was there. So based on his resume, nothing there to make you say, well, we got to have this guy. They had Larry Drew, who, he was a decent coach in Atlanta. I mean, I don't know if he's a great coach, but, I mean, he was just at Milwaukee 1 year. We had to go ahead and see what happens from there, but doesn't look like he's going to have a chance. So this owner, I'm concerned that, yes, they have Jabari Parker, a lot of excitement, but I don't like this type of move. Why would you go out and clear everybody out just for Jason Kidd with his experience and what he's proven? A little bit trouble.
I mean, Jason Kidd, like you said, he may end up being a great coach, but why? I mean, what has he done in his career as a coach 1 year that would warrant him being able to cause such a fuss?
Yeah.
What's going to happen next year? What is he? Is he going to want to be the owner and coach? I mean, what's he going to want if after 1 year he wants to run the franchise? What has he done to earn that? It's kind of people talked about him wanting to be a head coach after his playing career and having no coaching experience, and he gets his way there. Now he does. It kind of seems like a spoiled rich kid type thing to me,
Yeah.
but he may end up being a great coach. I don't know, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way that Larry Drew now, he just lost his job when there was no reason for it, really. It was just a friendship between the owner and Jason Kidd, who didn't get his way and ran off pouting to his boy. It's like, mom said no, so he went to dad, and he got his way there. And it's rewarding bad behavior, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think one thing that really got this started, yes, he probably wants more power to try to dictate the roster, but I think what he also did was he saw Derek Fisher just walk off the court and make $25 million.
Yep.
Meanwhile, he walked off the court and just made a $10 million contract.
Poor guy.
And he's seeing, Steve Kerr hadn't, he had been retired a while, but he's seeing these guys come from the booth, come off the court, and get $25 million contracts. He's like, give me more power, more money. I'm making $10 million. Derek Fisher just got paid $25 from the Knicks across town. So that probably spurred on his anguish with the Brooklyn Nets, and obviously they shot him down, and then of course he goes to Milwaukee in this situation, and it looks like something we didn't talk about, Mark, because it got it remind me. It looks like the Nets are going to hire some coach from Moscow. We didn't talk about David Blatt, who's now in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I think last week earlier he was hired as the Cleveland Cavaliers coach. I mean,
I don't know anything about him, but I think he's gonna. From what research I've done, it sounds like he's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. He was one of the guys. These international coaches are always funny when you watch the Olympics. Just the histrionics they go on. Like every time a foul calls, it's like somebody got shot. Oh, what foul? Every time another team scores 2 points, oh no, we gave up a basket. But David Blatt was one of the coaches who did kind of stick out to me. His Russian team was pretty good. Obviously, Karolinko, and then Alexei Shved, who came over and played some with Minnesota. I mean, he's been rumored with the NBA for the last year or two, and he finally got a job. Obviously, when you talk Cleveland, you have to talk about LeBron and what that means. I don't know if they did themselves any favors in the LeBron sweepstakes, but apparently he's a coach with upside. Although he is 55, it's not like he's a 40-year-old, but he does have some intrigue and some upside. And so I guess that's what Cleveland has in Blatt.
Yeah, I think he'll do a pretty good job. I liked hearing what I did about, or reading what I did about him and his career arc so far. And now, just like Jason Kidd, he's got a good player to build around, and he's got a couple good players. Crap, they've got 4 number 1 picks on their team. They might as well be good eventually. We'll talk a little bit more NBA here in a little bit, because the big 3 have opted out of their contracts. That's a big deal because I heard a lot of talk yesterday and over the last couple of weeks from people who don't really know anything about how the Heat are going to lose all 3 of these. I think it's pretty crystal clear now that the Heat all 3 big 3 have opted out of their contracts, that they're going to come back and they're going to take less money to play together. They're going to have an option. They're going to be in pretty good financial situation, because right now the Heat have got more money in salary cap space than any team in history has ever had. So they're going to have some options if they'll take less money, the big 3 and some other guys. I still can't believe that Udonis Haslem made $4.5 million last year. He's going to have to take significantly less than that to stay on this team. I would offer him the veteran minimum and then encourage him to try to get more elsewhere if he wanted to. I would offer him very, very little, and we would talk about it after the other teams say, no. But let's look real quickly. at local sports before we hit our first break, and we'll get back to the NBA. We talked the other day about Hector hiring their new basketball coach. We knew that he was going to be a good fit for them after Cody Vaught left. It's Noah Chagnon. He is from Waldron, former Arkansas Tech student. He's going to be a good one there at Hector. He's going to have a really good team for the next few years as Cody Vaught goes to West Fork, a good friend of mine. He's going to do a good job there, I'm sure, but Chagnon is going to come in and he's going to do, I think, a pretty good job with a really good team there at Hector. And then Dover has hired a new high school girls coach and I keep losing his name, and I know his name. He got a lot of votes for Coach of the Year and I'll look it up here in just a minute because I completely forgot it. But they've got a new coach there at Dover. His name is Charlie Melton. So he's going to be the new Lady Pirates head coach. He's 356 and 141 in his career. That's a pretty impressive record there. He was the head coach at Scranton, and as you know from Scranton, the 1A girls, man, they always 1A sports in general, they always compete and play very well. He's looking to step up and make an impact in a 4A school, and we've talked about Dover. They've been the butt of a lot of jokes, but
have
they need some good coaching. They need to step it up and compete, and they think that Charlie Melton's going to be the guy to do the good job.
No, I thought you said Charlie Bowden. Like, our Charlie got the Dover job? Oh, well, congratulations. No, it's good. I mean, you want to keep it going. Like we said, Dover, that's been one of the bright spots in their athletic department. And, we'd like to see more bright spots, Mark. You're going to be here this fall covering sports here in the area. You'd like to cover a winner at Dover for football and obviously when basketball comes around. So hopefully they keep that going on the ladies' side and the gents and the football side of it and everything else and get going. Baseball's been pretty solid, so, get everything else going.
So we'll see how Dover does. There's going to be an infusion of excitement, and that's always a good thing to have going for you. And Dover and Hector both going to have that to look forward to over the next few years. I did see. Well, that's something else. We'll talk about that at a later date. Let's hit our first break real quickly because I don't want to mix topics here too much. Yeah, a little early, but don't want to mix topics too much. I want to look at the big three, Carmelo Anthony, and the World Cup. We'll get to all that and much more here on the Sports Blitz today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
So Chris Bosh has joined Dwayne Wade. I guess Dwayne Wade hadn't opted out since the last time we were on the air. But
I think it reported. I don't know if he officially did it.
He has joined Dwayne Wade and LeBron James in opting out of their Miami Heat contracts the last 2 years of their deals. They're going to give the Heat a little bit of flexibility to, as LeBron James said, improve at every position. They need help. They need somebody to take some weight off the shoulders of LeBron James. I think it goes without saying that a guy like Dwayne Wade opting out of this deal, it's going to give the Heat more flexibility because they don't have to pay him so much money when, as great as he's been for this franchise and as good as he still is, I don't want him to make it seem like Dwayne Wade's a terrible player. He's still an all-star caliber player, but he can't play every day or every game, and they obviously don't play every day. This ain't baseball. But he can't play every game. He can't play the minutes he once did, and that's okay. But that means he can't be a max player. That means he can't be the highest or even second highest paid player on his team. He's going to have to take a significant pay cut, and I think to compete at the next level as far as going in and winning a finals, he's going to have to take significantly less money. They're going to have to get some help. It looks like that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I think if you saw his Instagram picture of the new diet he's on, I like seeing that because to me that's been my number one thing with D. Wade. Really think he has a chance to get back. He's going to take off 10 to 15, and I think he understands that too. So he's got the little zucchini and some piece of meat I saw. So it looks like he's on his way with his diet. But I would say not opting out, to me, that's the worst case scenario. So, for people, and I think you brought this up earlier, for people who say, oh, no, opting out, that's a risk of them leaving. I would rather a guy like Wade or Bosh leave if they were going to have to take $20 million a year anyway. I mean, I would much rather you go anyway. So to me, opting in was the worst case scenario.
Yep.
I still believe you're going to stay anyway. You just want to restructure your deal, which is obviously the best case scenario. But if it came down to in between, I'd rather you go somewhere. But I agree. I think they're going to come back. And, of course, now the question is how much are they going to take? How much of a pay cut? I mean, we've talked about San Antonio Spurs. We know Tim Duncan, $10 million. I think Tony Parker, $12 million. Ginobili, $7 million. I don't think Miami's going to get quite that low as far as their top three. But I would be disappointed if they were still, let's see, it'd be around 20 next year. If they just go down to like 15 or 16, on average among the three, that's just not enough meat on the bone. I mean, yeah, you gave some back, but that's not enough meat on the bone to do what I feel like you need to do, Mark. So that's what I'm looking at. What will be the breakdown, the annual breakdown for these guys? Yeah, are they going to take less, just dip their toe in the water? Are they going to fully get into this thing and be anywhere from, 11 to 12 or 13, somewhere right there per year?
See, honestly, I think LeBron James needs to make more money than the other two guys. I think that goes without saying. I don't know. He's unselfish. He made something like $70 million last year off the court from Nike and from Beats and from Gatorade and from all these other places. So he's not. Is he Powerade? Yeah, that's right. Powerade, not Gatorade. He's making money. He ain't hurting. He ain't got to worry about this. His salary is just icing on the cake. Somebody told me yesterday, and I'd have to research to make sure it was true, but they said that if he did the same thing for the next decade that he's done as far as his career arc in making money, that he'd be a billionaire before he got done playing, just from his off the court investments. Billionaire, and that was one of his goals coming out. And I remember him coming out to the NBA and saying, "I want to be a billionaire." I'm thinking, dude, you're crazy. You're gonna make maybe half that in salary, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be incredible if he would have played long enough to make half that. But the endorsements and the things that he's been able to do to build his brand have made that feasible. So he doesn't need the money. If I'm Miami Heat, I know you can't go at them this way, but I'm hoping and just praying that we can build a team around three guys who will take 10, 10, 12, or 12, 12, 15 at the most. And LeBron James making $15 million while Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh are making about 12 would be still higher than guys like Tim Duncan are making. It's not Kobe Bryant, mortgage the franchise success for me to make a whole bunch of money, but it would lead them to be competitive. I found a stat, Weldon, that I just read earlier from Brian Windhorst that said that in his career, I want you to understand this, LeBron James has been the best player in the world since about 2008, 2009. Roughly, you could argue 2009, Kobe Bryant was still right there, but he's been the best player in the world for a long time, 4 or 5 years at the least. He has never, in his NBA career, been alone as the highest paid player on his team. Ever. On his team. Not in the league. On his team.
Yeah.
Crazy. In a 11-year career that LeBron James, he's earned the right.
Yeah, consider Michael Jordan made 4 or 5 times more than the next person on his team. Michael had some years where he's making $33 million
bucks. Yeah, I had that argument with somebody yesterday. They said he was underpaid, and I was like, for his career, you couldn't possibly pay him what he was worth.
Yeah.
But his last year, he made $33 million. Kobe's making 30. We're making fun of him. He made $33 million his last year, and they were like, "Well, you look at how much he made in his career. There were people making more." Well, yeah, I understand that. He wanted to win.
Yeah. The salary and real life business application, they're always different things.
Yeah, you got to separate the two.
But this comes to the point. I think we talked about it over the weekend. I don't know if you saw anything more on it or found out about the max report. I mean, that just didn't sound right to me. The LeBron James max contract.
Yeah,
can't
be right.
Or like Miami understands he's the best player, and everybody else understands, so they're okay with him making the max. They know that's just what has to be done. That just
can't be done.
I just can't see that. I think we agree it's over, and that doesn't seem like something that's in his DNA to go make a max deal. So I don't know if you heard anything more on that. I didn't see any more on that.
He's making more money off the court. He's business savvy enough, and he's not one of those guys, man. And I don't hate to rag on Kobe. I just can't stand Kobe, so I will rag on him. But it drives me nuts that he would take that much money knowing that he is, okay, I'm worth it. Congratulations, you're worth a lot of money, and the team's not going to be hurting. But financially and on the court are two different things.
Yeah.
Like, the team's going to make a lot of money. You're going to put a whole lot of money in that owner's pocket, and you deserve it. But do you care about winning or do you not?
Yeah.
LeBron James is one that he'll take less money because he cares about winning. Michael Jordan did the same thing for most of his career. Kobe Bryant hasn't ever been about anybody but Kobe Bryant. So I'll just leave it with that. Carmelo Anthony, he opted out as well. A lot of folks talking originally about how the big three were going to be the big four. It's not going to happen. Carmelo Anthony's not going to take that little money, but he's got some visits lined up. He's going to start with the Chicago Bulls. A lot of people think that'll be the best visit for him, or the best fit for him. Houston trying to make room. Golden State was trying to make room. Lots of teams are trying to make room in their salary cap for guys like LeBron James and or Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. How about those last two teams you named? Teams that already didn't play defense, Houston and Golden State, going after Carmelo Anthony. But, Chicago is a place that's interesting. I mean, we talked about they drafted Doug McDermott, they traded to have his rights or whatever, and they know they need some scoring. And the thing about it is, and there's questions about, can Carmelo play for Thibodeau, and we know what he demands defensively. I think it's a valid question, but I think it would work out because obviously defensively the scheme is obviously team-oriented, 5-man oriented. I don't know if Jimmy Butler's in their future plans or if they'd have to move him or whatever, but I mean, if he's still on the team, you got a guy who's locking down the opposing wing. I mean, you have a legitimate defender. I mean, as long as Carmelo Anthony's not just Olay, like, here, come play, he doesn't have to be locked down as far as defensively. Plus, all the players they have on that team, as a unit, they're still going to be a good 5-man defensive team. And plus, I think if you're Chicago, especially if you're Thibodeau, if you're Noah, who you've had to live through this whole process of just not being able to score points for years and years, I think you're willing to say, okay, we have to do some things to bring some offense in here. So I think it could work in Chicago, but obviously the question is, what is Derrick Rose going to be? Is he going to be healthy? If not, offensively, Carmelo's essentially by himself again. And then with Houston, I mean, Houston's just going to go for the jugular. Like I said, they're going to try to win 130 to 131 and just, let the chips fall. If they do it, good for them. But they've got to move Jeremy Lin. They've moved Sheik's contract, so we'll see what they do with Lin. I think it's open. I would lean Chicago as the favorite. And, the Knicks, the Knicks are interesting because everybody's like, well, he can make more money. I don't think the Knicks would sign him if they had to pay him the max. Like, I don't think they'd bring him back. Like, if they want him back, but they don't want him back for the max. So
I think Phil Jackson's made that pretty clear.
Exactly. Yeah. So the notion, well, they can pay him the most, that puts him in the lead. I think that's irrelevant.
I agree. I just read something that I think will be a little bit disconcerting if you're a Bulls fan. If you want a guy like Carmelo Anthony to come there, they say that Derrick Rose isn't going to have anything to do with the meetings, that he's not. This is a quote from Derrick Rose at the end of this story. If they want to come, they can come.
Yeah,
that tells me that Derrick Rose isn't necessarily on board. You got to think about how Derrick Rose is mentally. He's been out the last 2 years with injuries, season-ending injuries. He's been the man. Before those injuries, he was the MVP that year. And I put those in air quotes because, if Derrick Rose is your MVP, you deserve him. But Derrick Rose was the MVP, and he hasn't been back. He wants to be the man. And if Carmelo Anthony comes in, he at very worst has to share that being the man with Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, they may be better as a team, but coming back from a couple injuries, there's going to be a big spotlight on Chicago. I would be very hesitant if I were Carmelo Anthony to go into a place where not only is it a little bit, is there a little bit of angst from the best player on the team, but that he's not, welcoming me and celebrating me coming and let's team up.
The question, do you know when that quote was made? I know it's in a newer story probably because he said that same exact quote 2 years ago, which, that kind of makes me believe that's just his philosophy. People talking about some of the other free agents a couple of years ago, and he basically said, if they want to come to me, they can come. I'm not going to call and recruit. Derrick Rose is a strange guy, personality-wise. He's always been that way going back since college. He's always had superstar athleticism and talent, but he's been very introverted, very into himself, very just, not a diva in terms of like, I enjoy the spotlight. And so it's just kind of weird for him to say, I'm going to go out and recruit players. We'll just go play with what we have. He's just a very weird guy. So if that was something he just said, then, that's a little trouble if you're Carmelo. But I heard him say that a couple of years ago. I'm just wondering if that's kind of his overarching belief throughout his career.
It may be, but golly, if you want to be good, you can at least be in the room. You don't have to be a part of the pitch, but at least show your support. You're making X amount of dollars a year. Just show up and say, hey, we'd be happy to have you here. That's it. That's all you have to say. Apparently this happened yesterday because he reiterated yet again Sunday, telling Yahoo Sports that it, quote, wasn't his job to be a part of the sales pitch to the all-star forward. It won't come as a surprise to the Bulls front office that was never banking on Rose being part of that pitch in the first place. Mark Stein wrote, if they want to come, they can come, Rose told Yahoo Sports. So this is a story on ESPN about a Yahoo story that had been done about Derrick Rose. Don't you love journalism? We can borrow from one another and quote each other. But Carmelo Anthony is going to start in Chicago. He's going to go to Texas, and he's going to go visit the Houston Rockets and the Dallas Mavericks on Wednesday. So he's going to have a busy, busy time. He's going to go to Los Angeles. His wife, what's her name? Lala? She's expected to push him toward Los Angeles. Imagine that, to be a Laker, but the Knicks are also optimistic, so he can be in one of the bigger markets in the world. He can be in one of the bigger markets in the country. He's going to have to take a bunch less to stay in New York, so I think that puts them a little bit down the list. And then it just comes down to, A, how much money can he make, which he cares about, and then B, what situation can he put himself in to win. I do think that is on his mind. If I had to guess, though, this may be wrong, but I think it's second to how much money can he make. So you think he's going
to take a max deal somewhere?
Close, and he'll justify it in that that when they got the big three together, those guys almost made max money. They didn't make max money, but they made almost max money to come together. And he's going to say, look. In his mind, he's going to say, I deserve max money, but I'm going to take a little bit less so that we can have a chance to win. He's not going to do the Tim Duncan, take half the max because Tim Duncan could be nearly a max. He's still a top 10-ish player in the world right now, and he's taking half of the max to play for the San Antonio Spurs. Carmelo Anthony doesn't strike me as a guy who'll do that.
Well, I don't think most other guys. Tim Duncan making $10 million, like you said, that's just mind blowing. Even the Miami people, I don't see them getting down to $10 million. We could say Wade should, but even I don't think he would do. It's just counterintuitive to what these guys like to do. But I would say this for the Knicks though, it's interesting because Phil Jackson's building this team. He made the trade with Dallas. I thought he did a really good job getting Giannis. I won't even try his last name. His brother in the second round, and then Clay Anthony. So I mean, he's trying to build this thing the right way. They're trying to make him play for Pau Gasol. But Phil Jackson's never been a part of anything that didn't have a superstar player. And so, I mean, he's doing all these great things, but he hadn't done it without a superstar. So if Carmelo Anthony leaves, I mean, he can do all these things, but he's still going to have a huge void in his roster. So, what will that make him do? Will he, maybe spend a little bit more, spend more, or he will stick to his bare guns and not even bump an inch to bring him back? Those are things to look at.
We shall see. All right, let's hit a break. We want to get today's CrossFit Russellville poll question in our last segment of the show today, where we're going to talk about cliches in sports. Weldon had a good point from a story that he read about some of the most just mind-numbing sports cliches. We're going to give 110%. And I just want to start by thanking God. I just want to thank my family for being there for me through all the hard times.
Must-win game.
It's a must-win game. These types of cliches, which ones drive you the most nuts? We've got an answer or two we want to get to. You can give us a call at 968-NEWS. It's 968-6397. Be a part of the Sports Blitz today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
All right, it's time for ESPN The Ocho, Obscure Sports Quarterly, and more here on the Sports Blitz. Those guys over there don't get the dodgeball reference, so you guys will just have to bear with me here as we're going to talk a little baseball, a little soccer here for the next couple minutes. I'm going to let Weldon go nuts on what's been going on with Felix Hernandez and with Clayton Kershaw as these two boys are dealing right now.
Well, that's right. Clayton Kershaw, to me, I've said the last couple of years, Mark, he's the best pitcher in the game. And that was a time where Verlander was kind of, being discussed. And I'd say if I had to win a big game, I'd go with Justin Verlander. But consistently 33 starts a year through half of a calendar year, I'm taking Clayton Kershaw every fifth day. I mean, dude is nasty. I mean, we know he's a lefty, hard fastball with movement. He's got a nice, nasty breaking ball. And then King Felix, his stuff is absolutely ridiculous. You just hate seeing him up in Seattle, and they've made some moves to improve that roster, but offensively, they're still lagging behind. They have nothing to do for my Oakland A's out in that AL West, Mark. They ain't got anything for them in Seattle. And the Angels are trying to get in the mix too, but Seattle's still lagging behind. But yeah, King Felix, Clayton Kershaw. I don't see how you can argue they're two best in the game. One in the National League, one in the American League. They're legit.
All right. Well, midsummer, I'm going to go to the standings right now so I can make my pick without any knowledge whatsoever. But who you got winning the World Series as of today?
My preseason, I'm trying to think what I picked in preseason. I think I had Detroit in the American League. I'm trying to think because I want to stick with my preseason prediction. I don't want to go by who's playing now. I don't think I had Atlanta or maybe Atlanta or St. Louis. I think I may have had Atlanta, so not looking so great, but hey.
Well, here I go. Let's see. Who's going to win the World Series? Let's pick. Ooh, Oakland, man. They've got a lot of wins right now. Milwaukee, they've won some games.
I told you my A's in the West.
Let me go with I don't care. The end. I don't care who wins the World Series. That's my pick. I'm going to go with Pants in summer.
I think
that's what I'm going to go with.
I think I had the Dodgers. That was my pick in the National
Gotcha.
League. They're in second place in the West.
They're in second place. Aren't they behind the Giants? Is that happening right now?
The Giants were once on pace a couple of weeks ago to win 130-something games, and they went on like a 5-6 game losing streak.
Yeah. Well, they didn't. What's his face? Lincecum pitched a no-hitter the other day. That's kind of cool. The way his career has changed, like his game has changed, so to speak. He doesn't throw the heat that he once did, but he's able to get more from his other pitches, and he's pitching pretty well too.
Yeah, with the Lincecum, he's one of those who you knew when he came up he had his herky-jerky mechanics, so you know it couldn't last because he was dominant like every single start. And then when he got to a point to where he started getting injured a little bit, his ERA went up, he wasn't as consistent. He may have like a 4-point-something ERA, but every few starts he could still reach back and herky-jerky bad mechanics and still give you some nasty stuff. And that's what he did. So, he won't be the dominant Cy Young's Tim Lincecum that we've seen, every start, but every few starts he's still going to show you what he used to do and what he used to be able to do. It's just not as consistent right through now. But, he pitched a gem against San Diego, second year in a row. Got San Diego.
Yeah, poor guys. Yeah. About a year from the last time they got no hit, they get another one. Nearly a perfect game, right? It was just one walk.
Yeah. He was on.
All right, let's move on to the World Cup. The U.S. into the round of 16, got a shot at going on. They got through the group of death. Jurgen Klinsmann, his Jedi mind tricks to work on his guys. Oh, we can't win. And then injuries to everyone. 2 broken noses and a pulled hamstring, a partridge in a pear tree so far for the U.S. And they make it out alive into the round of 16. They get Belgium. They got a pretty tough draw. Everybody's got a tough draw when you get to the final 16 of any tournament. But you've got a tough draw for the U.S. as they face Belgium. I don't think, though, that Belgium's better than Germany. And they were right there with Germany for the entire match. And the U.S. in position to win a game and then face off against your team if they can make it through. I watched, man, I'm trying my best to give soccer its chance. I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. I don't hate it as much as I used to, but I don't love it. I've liked watching some of the more dramatic moments. There have been moments that I've been like, oh, but then there have been a lot of more moments where I was like, but I did enjoy the Brazil-Chile match there a couple days ago where it was down to PKs and Neymar makes his and dude from Chile hit the post on his and was unable to tie it up. And what do they do there? They go to more kickers?
Yeah, I think they just cycle through people.
They just keep going until somebody makes one, somebody misses one, and they've outnumbered them. But it looks like the U.S. is in position. Josie Altidore training with the U.S. Training is practice for those that don't know. They say stuff like, oh, they had training today.
Yeah,
well, training sounds to me like they're going into a classroom and they're taking a class. But training is practice for those non-soccer fans. He practiced with the U.S. team, and he looks to be at least in consideration to make a return.
Yeah, I mean, they could use them. I mean, obviously, again, you're talking about our forwards, and, Clint Dempsey needs some help up there. But, for the U.S., I mean, obviously, it's huge. The chance to advance in a World Cup. First of all, I think we all agree it was a huge accomplishment to get out of the group when a lot of people didn't think it would happen. Now you get set to take on a Belgium team. And you're right, every draw is tough when you get to the knockout stage, especially if you're the 2 seed instead of a 1 seed from your pool. And so obviously you're going to have to take on a top seed from somewhere else. So, it is one of those things where, I've said this before. I've got my bachelor's, don't have my master's or my PhD. So I'll defer to the soccer people on this. I don't know what type of soccer Belgium plays. It could be one of those things to where maybe they're not as good as some other opponents, but maybe their style of play can give us trouble. I've noticed that, and I've heard people say that the teams that gives the U.S. trouble are the teams that can kind of play wide open, play, kind of open and free, and kind of get the tempo going. And so I don't know what Belgium's style of soccer is. If it's one that plays into the U.S.'s hands, they certainly have a chance. But if it is something that's more wide open, obviously it wouldn't favor the Americans.
What he said. Let's hope that the U.S. can score more point units, more goal things,
more runs,
more of those things. No, we know better than that. We won't go that far. But let's hope that the U.S. can continue to have folks chanting and screaming. I was there at Buffalo Wild Wings on, I guess it was Thursday, when the U.S. was playing against Germany. It was cool because you got moderate soccer fans, and like I say moderate, like they became a soccer fan last week.
Yeah,
they're getting their bachelors as well.
That's right.
They're wearing their jerseys now though, and you can tell they still have the tags on the inside.
Yeah,
no, they're chanting and screaming, and U.S. gets close and they're like, ah! And then somebody, misses a pass or lets it go out of bounds. Like, why did you do that? Why didn't you do this? And I'm just like, I don't know what they should have done. So you tell me. I assume that's how I look when I'm watching basketball.
Well, see, that's when you got to know what you know and know what you don't know.
Yeah.
See, I'm never going to get on. I can tell if somebody's just done something blatantly stupid. I'm not going
if somebody bites someone.
Yeah, or if somebody just lets a ball sail right by them, they didn't even try to kick it. But I'm not going to get on somebody. Oh, we're in our 1-4-4. You're 1-4-2. You got to be over here. Oh, what's wrong with you? I'm not going to get it because I don't even know, exactly how you rotate and all that good stuff. So, you got to know what you know what you don't know. Because those people, and especially when they don't talk about basketball, it's Miami people, not you, but just these other Miami people be like, well, LeBron, you got to pass to LeBron. Come on, LeBron's the best player. What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
I don't want anybody touching it but LeBron. This is how basketball works, right? Right, people? And like, no, that's not how basketball works.
This is not how it is. Yeah, well, I would be that way if I were speaking about soccer. So
yeah.
I'll just go ahead and say, let's hope they score more goal units than the other team. France and Nigeria in the 44th minute. Guess what the score is?
I'm going to say it's 0-0.
Not 0-0, not nothing. It's 0-0. And then Germany, Algeria, they play at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We get to see those schnitzels go out there and win a soccer match. Don't know who the bracket has them playing in the next round, but they're probably going to blitzkrieg them too. So we'll see how that goes. Let's hit our next. I guess this is our final break of the show, Maddie.
Right.
We've blitzed through this sports blitz today, and I've said the word blitz 4 times now in the last 30 seconds. But we've got a little bit more for you. I want to talk about Johnny Manziel and cliches in sports. Stay with us.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning, and we'll bring us our next chance right
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
What are the worst sports cliches that you know of? Give us a call at 968 News. You got another 13 minutes to get involved in the Monday show. We'll talk about those here in just a little bit. I want to get through a couple of other things here real quickly, though. One topic that it's going to heat up a little bit more here in the next month. When the NBA free agency cools down, when the World Cup is over, and we shift our attention to the NFL and college football, there's going to be an even brighter spotlight on guys like Johnny Manziel. Right now, he's taking a lot of heat, and really most of it he brings on himself. With going out, he has the right to go to Vegas and go hang out. He has the right to party with Drake and do whatever those things that he wants to do. Right here in the middle of the time when he's supposed to be getting better and learning the playbook, and he probably is doing those things. But to go out and do these things that he does on the weekends, he says, I have the right to do it. He does have the right to do it. Should he do it? That's a different story. I wanted to know, well, what if you're Johnny Manziel, what do you do? Because honestly, he probably is in a can't-win situation in that, no matter what he does, if he's out at all, if he goes to the grocery store, Johnny Manziel went to the grocery store today, he flashed a hand signal at somebody. He did something. He bought the expensive beef. What is he thinking? He's crazy. He bought bone-in pork chops instead of, he's crazy, man. So yeah, I do too.
Flavor.
Yeah. But what do you do if you're Johnny Manziel?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that it's been a part of him ever since he's been on the scene, and I still say this. It goes back to, or I should say, it's going to end up being, what is your performance? Because if you're not performing well on the field, the narrative is going to be that the partying and the hanging out cost you being successful. It prevented you from being successful on the field. But we're wise enough to know that players go out and hang out and party all the time and still succeed on the field. Now, the difference is you don't see a lot of top-flight quarterbacks doing that.
That's true.
And that's where it kind of rubs the wrong way. That's where it's really going to come down to putting up or shutting up, because as long as we don't see Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady just getting wild. We see them do events and we see them make appearances places, but the most wild thing that we see them doing is they'll go to the Kentucky Derby or something. That's the most outrageous thing.
They'll be in about 17 commercials.
Yeah, they'll be in some commercial. That's the most outrageous thing. We don't see these guys at the pool, a lot of women around in swimsuits just hanging out. And then, of all people, you could be hanging out with Gronk. I mean, that's the icing on the cake. You want a party reputation. If you didn't already have one, you hang out with Gronkowski. And that's just going to put it on, because I don't think anybody in the league can get down like Rob Gronkowski can. So, so when you put all that together, it's just something we're not used to seeing. Now, Andrew Luck kind of reinforced that. He comes into the league. We don't see him on anything. He crashed a wedding, and that was funny. It was kind of cheesy. It wasn't edgy at all. But for Andrew Luck, that was like, ooh, that's something big.
I can see him just walking by, and there I'll just go in there and just.
Exactly. And, for Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, Brady, any of these other guys, that's kind of edgy for them. That's just the standard of a starting quarterback. If Dez Bryant did that, nobody'd say anything because we're like, oh, we seen Dez do much more than that. We seen Dez do all kinds of stuff. So I guess to answer the question, Mark, it just comes down to being a starting quarterback, the standard of a starting quarterback, an elite one, and we don't see that from Johnny Manziel. In fact, the last somewhat starter we saw doing that was Matt Leinart. Remember, he was in the jacuzzi with all the women, and what's he doing now? So
see, to me, the thing with Johnny Manziel is that he's a quarterback for one. He also hasn't earned anything. Like at this point, Peyton Manning can do the commercials. He's won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady could do all the commercials he wanted. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He could go and have his time. And, the tabloids follow guys like Tom Brady around anyway. He's got a supermodel for a wife. So these folks get followed around, and it just comes with the territory. But you go out and party with Gronk.
That's the thing.
And, Gronk, to an extent, he probably needs to put up or shut up at this point with all these injuries. But he's done some things in the league. You didn't hear about Gronk before. But when he does some things and he's earned some leeway, then he goes out and people don't have too much to say because he can still back it up on the field. But Johnny Manziel, we don't know anything about what he's going to do at this level. If he comes out and just tanks and he's just terrible this year, well, what's the talk going to be?
Right.
Johnny Manziel was partying too much. He didn't learn the playbook. He didn't realize where that corner was going to be when he threw it right to him. Those types of things. He didn't realize that linebacker was going to, take his face off. So Johnny Manziel could easily just be awful this next year, and it get blamed on how much fun he's had over the offseason. So he's got to play well, or else he's going to be in Team Tebow sort of territory where he becomes not worth as much as the trouble that he causes. And I'm not saying Tim Tebow caused trouble, but he had a circus around every facility he was ever in, and then it became, well, is it worth having him here for what he's going to provide us on the field with what's going to come off the field?
Right.
And Johnny Manziel quickly is going to get into that territory.
And it's just that nature of that position, because like I said, we see Dez Bryant hanging out doing this thing, Gronkowski. I mean, these are tight ends and receivers. We look at you funny if you're not out partying at those positions.
That's true.
And just that particular position, the quarterback, even if you've proved something, especially as you said, if you haven't proven anything, it's just one of those, well, come on now, because Peyton's not doing that. Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, like I said, they may be seen at the Kentucky Derby taking pictures, but that's as much as you're going to see them doing as far as any kind of a party and a socializing. But you're Johnny Manziel, and we don't know if you're passed out in an alley or not, and you're supposed to be leading our team. That doesn't look right. But I say all this, I do want to make it clear my position, though. My position is I believe he'll be successful. I think his head's going to be in the right place. I think he's a good football player. As I've said before, if he's healthy, I do believe in him, but if you want to talk perception and what will be the perception if he doesn't succeed, I mean, that's what it is.
I think he can be successful. I just think guys like Gronk can get away with it because, no offense to tight ends, but their position is a little bit easier than quarterback in the NFL. Oh, block this guy or run this route and catch the ball. That's pretty much what you do as a tight end. As a quarterback, you got to pay attention to everything. You got to know where everybody's at or where everybody is and where everybody's supposed to be, and you've got to be the general. So Johnny Manziel, man, he's painting himself into a corner to where he's going to have to play well, or he's going to have a really short leash.
I'll say this one last thing though. If there's one person I had to pick to paint himself out of this corner, it'd be the former number 2 for the A&M and now Cleveland Browns. He's the one guy who has that swag about him that he will get himself out of this and he will prove people wrong, even though it's an immense amount of self-created pressure. I think he's the personality type to do it.
He's definitely the personality type. It just comes down to whether or not he's going to be able to succeed when he's not physically more talented than most people, because the NFL is the best of the best. He may have been able to get along on being more physically talented than everybody else for most of his career. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard, but he's going to have to ratchet it up even more in the league because everybody is the biggest, fastest, and strongest, and he's not going to just, when the pocket collapses and you can climb up on a lineman's back, try doing that with Justin Smith having a hold of you. Now, he's going to grab you, he's going to throw you down with one hand, and he's going to laugh at you. That doesn't happen in college football because there wasn't anybody big enough, strong enough, fast enough to catch a guy like Johnny Manziel. I've got my reservations. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but I would be very careful if I were him to try to stay out of the limelight until after I've accomplished something. But we'll see how that. But like Weldon said, he's the type of personality, and he's the type of player who he could, just brush it all off and play well, or use it as fuel to get better. Let's look real quickly, our last few minutes, at Razorbacks sports. We've got some hog talk for you, and then we want to get to the cliches. Trey Killian has made the final roster for Dave Van Horn's U.S. national team, the 24-man roster for the USA Baseball Collegiate National Team. It's no surprise when he pitched pretty well a couple weeks ago, or I guess it was last week. He pitched very, very well, and it's amazing, Weldon, when Trey Killian gets run support, he wins.
yeah, something he wasn't used to seeing. Yeah, it's a tremendous honor. We've said this before, for Trey and Coach Van Horn to be a part of. And obviously you want to represent Team USA well. I mean, the upper levels of baseball, it's been a little bit of a struggle when it comes to international competition. But, for Trey, it's good work. And I hear some people talk about, the workload, and I don't think they're going to overwork him. I mean, pitchers do have to get some work. I mean, he would be doing some throwing in the offseason anyway. So, I mean, they're not going to throw him on short rest or anything, but, he's going to be throwing normally. Like I said, it's off season. These pitchers aren't sitting around just keeping their arm dead the whole time. They have sessions they're going to be throwing anyway. So I think he'll be fine from a health standpoint. Competitively, when you look at him being the guy on the staff, this is a great preparation for that.
Oh, it definitely is. It's good competition. It's something about seeing that highest level of competition through the regular season, through your career in college, and then going out and facing real good competition where he is too. That'll help him come back, and I don't see any negatives to this. I think it's going to be pretty good. I was trying to find out if there are any more recruiting news and notes here from Razorback football or basketball, but I did want to share that Bobby Portis is still growing. The guy measured at nearly 6'10", maybe even at 6'10", coming into the season. He's almost 6'11" right now, 6'10 3/4. And Mike Anderson says that he has, I'm trying to read and find out where it was that I just saw that, but talked about how he went to a big man camp and it was very, very good for his growth as a player. But it looks like Bobby Portis, he's going to have to grow in his game for the Razorbacks, but he's literally growing as well.
Yeah, Portis is intriguing. You see some projections that have him in the lottery, and then some are kind of lukewarm. I mean, I really want to see him take that next step. I mean, Arkansas signed a pretty good group of recruits. Obviously, the point guard position is going to be helped, but it's not like they brought in, an instant 15, 20-point a game scorer. So it's going to have. So if they're going to take that next step, I think it's going to be because of him. Bobby Portis, in a weird way, he's going to have to be the new recruit, as in taking his game up a notch, because he has more of the upside than anybody else. I think Arkansas is still going to have some little bit more of a punch to get to where they want to go, and he's the most likely candidate.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about Mike Anderson's system is that
his offense.
It doesn't necessarily require you to go out and get the Wigginses of the world, because it takes a special dude to be able to just, I'm going to focus on defense. I'm going to focus on running till I puke and coming out every 4 minutes because I can't go anymore, because that's the way the system is designed. So it takes a special dude to be able to do that, and for Mike Anderson to get the guys that he thinks fit his system, it's put up or shut up time this year. They've got to make a tournament, or else Mike Anderson's seat is on fire. He's got a point guard. He's got Bobby Portis growing. He's got guys who have been in his system a little bit longer, another year, and these recruits have got to fit in and play well. I think they will. I think Arkansas is going to make the tournament this year.
I hope so.
SMU, dude, have you seen what they're doing recruiting-wise and getting in transfers? Larry Brown is 1,000 years old, but that guy is recruiting his tail off down at SMU. I hope they're not doing the old SMU, the Pony Express, Pony Excess, as they're doing for the football program back in the 80s. But SMU, man, you pay attention to those guys. They went deep in the did they win it, or they lost in the finals? Lost to Minnesota in the finals of the NIT. So you got to watch out for them this year. That's going to be an interesting team to follow this year. All right, let's look real quickly at the cliches that most drive us crazy. I know that you've probably got several. I've got several.
Oh, yeah.
That just irk me every time I hear them, and it's just like you're opening your mouth and you're just talking. You don't have anything to say. You're just talking.
Yeah. I've got a lot of them, Mark. You know, cliches. I mean, look, I'm Mr. Anti-cliche. I just cringe every time I hear them. I'm going to list a few and just go from there. Number one, a good loss. You've heard that before. That was a good loss for them. They needed that one to get back on track and, you know, all this stuff. The better than their record. You know, their record is this, but they're better than their record shows. Defense wins championships. I'm not just saying that because I'm an offensive coach, but sports have changed. Yes, you need to be able to play defense, but you got to score some points too. You can't just be a defensive team sending a message. Oh, they send a message today.
What is that message?
We have.
You know, it's like dodgeball. I quoted it earlier. It's the analyst before the game, Pepper. He said I talked to the coach before the game, and they really want to win this one. It's the championship. What do you think? They want to lose any game? Like those, Jason Bateman. He's really funny. Those cliches always drive me nuts.
I'll throw a few more. Like, no one gave us a chance. He's a winner. That one really gets to me. They wanted it more. And then one of mine, it's not even a saying. It's more of a thought process of I'm happy to be here / I never thought I'd make it. I get it in some context where it's real. But I think sometimes, like I like what Deion Sanders said in his Hall of Fame speech. He's like, most people say, I never thought I'd make it here. I can't say that. I always knew I was going to be here. I always knew I was going to work hard and put the time in. Always knew I'd be here enshrined in Canton, Ohio. And so I like the confidence that he had from an early age. Sometimes the self-deprecation gets a little bit too far. And
the false humility.
Yeah, the false humility and all that. And then one more, I feel like, and this is kind of a newer one, I feel like we're in sports today, we're using the term beast a little bit too much. Some people really are. The LeBron Jameses, the Calvin Johnsons of the world. I mean, there are some physical freaks out there. But, yeah, Marshawn is beast mode. But everybody that makes a dunk, everybody that does that is not a beast. They're a good athlete. But let's keep the LeBron, Calvin Johnsons as the beast.
So you think the way I described freaks is how you describe a beast?
Yeah.
Somebody who's just like, good Lord.
Yeah,
freakishly.
Good Lord. Yeah, I mean, yeah, beast, like, I like the word. It's just, it doesn't go to everybody that's spectacular. Like, you know, LeBron.
Oh, I got one that drove me the most nuts the other day. I'll read it after I read Chris Rogers here. He talks about I couldn't have done it without the Lord above, my faith, those types of things. I'm just, I think he's quoting Varsity Blues here. I'm just one man. I'm just one player. In a team concept, or we're just taking it one game at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. We're focused on the next one. We're not looking ahead on the schedule, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Those are funny. But the one that drives me the most nuts is one that I heard the other day in the NBA draft so much that the guys in the booth were making fun of him, and they were talking, oh, here he comes. Here's the next guy who's going to come up there and say he's got a chip on his shoulder because he was drafted number 13. The chip on my shoulder.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't even know what that means. You're just saying I'm offended by the fact that I was drafted so late, or that people thought less of me. What are you going to do? Like, I want to see somebody who, after they do something, said, yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder. Nobody ever says it except for before they ever do something.
You got to show me something.
Show me. And then you can say, yeah, I played with the chip on my shoulder. That's a little different. But I've got a chip on my shoulder before. Man, just shut up and play.
And, you know, the draft is a hotbed for them. The draft is like the haven where cliches breed.
It's like these guys, and these guys have been, for their whole lives, so pandered to. They've been so, you know, they've had things handed to them for so long that when they don't go number one, then it's like they all expected to go number one. Yeah. Guys, I don't know if you realize this or not, but there are 30 teams drafting the NBA, and each one of them gets a pick, and they're in order from 1 to 30. You're going to go somewhere in there if you go at all. Yeah. Not everybody's going number one.
Zach LaVine was the biggest baby of them all. Like, he just looked like he was just sour. Somebody just
peed in his cereal. Is he the one that got drafted by the Timberwolves?
Yeah.
And apparently he was caught miming a word that we can't say. Well, we can, but we won't. About how he didn't want to go to Minnesota. He was. It's
a lovely place, Zach. I'll be there in a few weeks. Come on up, Zach.
You guys can be friends.
But the draft. I mean, how many just from the draft? Tremendous upside.
Oh, Lord, the drinking game. Did you see?
Yeah,
the drinking game?
I saw you put that up there. That was right on the money.
Oh God, the alcohol poisoning galore. If anybody actually did that.
Upside, ceiling, wingspan. I mean,
elite athlete. Yeah. All those different things. Yeah. explosive. That could go a bunch of different ways. So we'll just let's end the show with that. We'll be back on Wednesday. We won't be here Friday because it's the 4th of July. We want you to go blow some things up.
Hey,
Maddie will be here.
I want to say one thing. I think we all agree. We want to wish the family of Philip Lutzenkirchen, former Auburn football player, the best. He passed away over the weekend. Of course, part of the national title team.
Yeah, car accident. Man, that's rough. I saw that, and I don't like Auburn at all. But I saw that, and I thought, man, that's awful that a guy that was part of a national championship team, he caught that touchdown on the big Cam Newton rolls this way, throws it all the way across the field. I'll never forget that. For Auburn back in that championship year, we do want to wish his family and the school the best there as he has passed away in a car accident. We'll be back on Wednesday. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark, saying so long. 11 o'clock on Wednesday at rivervalleyleader.com. You can be a part of the Sports Blitz.